enterprise.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to New Covenant Christian Ministry Entrepreneurship Series. My name is Florena Oliver, and I'd like to welcome you to this candid conversation about entrepreneurship with my brother here. As I said, my name is Florena Oliver, and I'm a member here at New Covenant Christian Ministries. I serve on the Community Engagement Ministry, and I'm also a business owner. I own a company by the name of the Oliver Price Group that is a partnership between myself and my daughter. And my dear brother is going to introduce himself. So would you take a moment to do that, sir?
Good and exciting day, evening, morning, whatever time you're watching this. I'm so excited to be here at New Covenant Christian Ministries with my sister Florena Oliver. Likewise, I'm a business owner. And I am just delighted to be here today to talk about something that is very dear to my heart, and that is business and the success of all those fantastic business owners out there that are watching us today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Florena, you know how we do it.
Steve, yes.
We have been in classes on multiple occasions.
Yes, we have. Yes,
here
we
at the
have.
church and other places.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, over the years, we always start off with one thing before we do anything, and that is prayer.
Yeah, gotta have prayer.
If you are out there with us today watching, if you would just bow your heads as we go to the throne in prayer. Father, we come before you just humbly, thanking you for another opportunity to be in your midst. Father, there's a lot going on in this world today. A lot going on with our families, with our children, with our livelihoods, and with our businesses. And so, Father, today as we listen in on this conversation and we listen in on your son as the CEO, Jesus, the CEO of all of our businesses, Father, we ask that we glean just something that we get from it, Father, that would give us hope and would strengthen our faith as we continue to plow through these perilous times. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that, Steve. And as Steve mentioned in the prayer, we're going to focus our conversation around a book that Steve and I both had the opportunity to read. And I'm going to share with you just a little bit about how we decided on this book. When we were asked to do this conversation, we were talking on the phone about, okay, what would it be about? And I shared with him that this book that I had read years ago came into my spirit. And what was so interesting about it is he also said, and what did you remember what you said to me?
I just reread that book again.
Yes. So we felt that was divine, right? That we discussed this book.
Absolutely. It had to be something from God, because I just literally had put down that book that I had picked up off my shelf to reread again. Every now and then I take good books and I reread them again so I can get it back into my system of what I learned the first time. So when you said Jesus, CEO, a light went off.
Jesus CEO. For those who don't know what CEO means, Jesus Chief Executive Officer. So that's the conversation we're going to have about business. We're going to be taking a look at what Jesus did in his ministry, which was a business. He took 12 sort of ragtag people, pulled them all together, and because of that business, that ministry, we're sitting here today.
Now, we got to get it right now. He took 12 unlearned men.
Okay.
And oftentimes when we're starting off in business, we think we can't start because we don't know it all.
So true.
Those 12 were unlearned.
So true.
But if you start off your business and you surround yourself with the right people, you can sit up under them and you can learn something like the 12 agreed to sit up under Jesus.
That's the key. That's the key. So this is not an easy fix that we're going to be talking about. There's no get rich quick, but we hope what we deposit into you will help you as you in your business move to the next level, or for those of who are just beginning to even start a business. So the first thing we wanted to share with you about this book, Jesus CEO, is the author. The author of the book is Laurie Beth Jones. The book was actually printed in 1992, so it may be very difficult for those of you who may want to get a copy of it, but you can get an audio version of it. So for those of you who want to have an audio version, it's Jesus CEO, and the author is Laurie Beth Jones. And it's an interesting thing that she did in this book, Steve. She divided Jesus' ministry into 3 categories. The first one was the strength of self-mastery. The second was the strength of action. And
the last one was the strength of relationships.
Yes. So that's how we're going to focus our conversation in these series. So today we're going to take a look at Jesus' ministry from the strength of mastery. And the first point about Jesus' ministry from the strength of mastery, very difficult for me to say, is a wilderness experience. All of us have had wilderness experiences. But the thing that Laurie brings out in this book that is so important for a business owner is that growth comes from that wilderness experience. Can you talk a little bit about, maybe I know you've had more than one wilderness experience because I know your story, but can you talk a little bit about how your business grew and what you learned from just having a wilderness experience?
Well, thank you so much. It is hard for us to understand what a wilderness experience really is, because when you think about the wilderness, you're thinking from the context of something that's not really that good. You're thinking about being in a wild environment. You're thinking about being chased. You're thinking about not having resources and having to look for resources. And if you're thinking about it that way, you're right. It is all of those things. And business is like being in a wilderness experience. Yes. But one of the things that you find out in that wilderness experience is it allows you to really tap into who you really are. Because the success in business does not come when everything is going well.
Oh, absolutely.
It comes when things are not well.
Absolutely.
It's when you are at the beginning stages and you're scrounging up the capital to start. When you're in the beginning stages and you're trying to get knowledge of the service that you're trying to provide. It's in the beginning stages when you're trying to just navigate through business, just business 101, and that is the wilderness experience. And if we think about from a context of Jesus and his wilderness experience, that is when he was challenged the most. That is when he went and Satan tempted him. And often in our wilderness experience for business is you will be tempted.
Yes, absolutely.
You'll be tempted with credit cards. That got a laugh out of you because you understand.
Oh, I understand that totally.
You start a business and everybody sends you stuff. You are inundated with business cards, with business loans, with people telling you you got $150,000 available to you in a card. They send it in the mail.
Yeah.
Until you try to activate it, then they tell you you need this, and
Sounds
that.
like that happened to you before.
On more than one occasion. I would have to be honest to the audience. But you can learn so much. It toughens you. Anytime that you're in the wilderness and you survive, And that is what you have to look out is when you're coming out of the wilderness, you're going in with one mindset, but when you come out, you're so tough.
Yes, yes. And many people even today are looking at this whole pandemic as a wilderness experience, because I'm pretty sure there are some of you who are viewing, things aren't so good for you right now. And I can totally appreciate that and totally understand it, because I too have had my wilderness experiences. Because in fact, my very first business fell flat, slap on its face down. Whew. I thought I was never going to get up. But through that wilderness experience from that first business, I have learned so much. And that's what I tried to share with other business owners, some of the mistakes I made in that first business, so that you're going to make mistakes, but you don't have to make the same mistakes I made. So that's kind of my philosophy for sharing, the things that I did wrong in that first business. But there's a movie. My daughter. If my daughter was here, she'd tell you I love watching old movies. And there's an old movie that I watch all the time called "It's a Wonderful Life." And I learned a business lesson from that movie, It's a Wonderful Life. And the business lesson I learned, I'm going to try to make this really quickly, is Mr. Potter, who was the villain in the movie. When everybody else was panicking and trying to sell, they wanted to take their money out the bank, he was running around buying up stuff. And he said something that I have always remembered that was very profound to me during that time. And this isn't a direct quote, but basically paraphrasing, that when everybody else is in trouble and running away, that's when you stay still and buy. So I'm saying to many of you out there now, I know in 2020, all of us were talking about, the clear vision, the 2020 vision. I'm saying to all of you right now, stand firm in your vision, but just adjust your plan. Now, I wish I could say that was something that I came up with, but it's not. Andy Stanley has a book around vision, and that's one of the things that he says in that book, is that don't adjust the vision because, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more, if the vision is from God, you don't want to adjust it, but you have to be flexible with your plans.
So it sounds like what you're talking about is being willing to pivot. And in business, oftentimes you need to pivot. Mm-hmm. You may wake up one day in the wilderness and you're going in one direction, and then all of a sudden, right in front of you is this big bear of fear. And you have to change course.
Absolutely.
And then there are other times where God will embolden you to go straight to the bear.
Yes, yes, yes.
And turn the tides on him.
Yes, yes.
But the only way you know which way you should go is by having a clarity of purpose.
Yes, you have to have that. You have to have that. So I want to talk about going from the wilderness experience, I want to talk about another concept in the book, and that is words have power. And I must admit, when I reread, because the first time I read this book, I didn't know you see. But this time when I read the book and it came to this thing of words have power, you were walking through my mind, because that's something that you do all the time. Every time you meet anybody that you know, you let your words have power. And can you share with everyone what I'm referencing?
Now, see, you trying to get the secrets out of. And I don't know if we have an ATM set up or anything like that for those secrets. I need to be paid for that. I might have to leave you an invoice if I do that. But anyway, I'm going to give it to you for free anyway, because this is New Covenant, and we want to be free givers.
Thank you.
And so I've come up with this thing, and it's not mine. It's something that I learned from someone else years ago, is that your words, you can speak life or you can speak death to people. And so when I come across people, after I meet them, I come up with these words. And so I start telling them highly successful business owner. I start telling them that you are faithful. I start telling them things like that. So I repeat back to them what they tell me. And so if I meet somebody and they say, I want to be a millionaire one day, well, from then on, when I talk to them, I call them millionaire. Yep. And so the more that you speak that into someone's life, the more that they actually start believing it. And it's not hocus pocus. It's just that your words have power. And that comes directly out of the wilderness.
Yes.
Because if you look, when Jesus was in the wilderness, right after his wilderness experience is when he started saying, I am.
I am. Yeah.
And when he was saying, I am, he was putting power because there was a clarity in his purpose. There was a clarity in his vision. And he got that through the wilderness. Once you are in the wilderness experience and you understand God brings you out of that wilderness experience, then now you have something extra that you are able to release to those on the outside.
Absolutely.
That's where your I ams come in.
Absolutely. So as business owners, you must remember that your words have power. You know, it's okay to say that I am a successful billionaire company trading on the New York Stock Exchange, and you may only have 10 cents in the bank, but that's okay. Because the more you say that, the more you're going to believe it. And as we can do, looking at, as Steve has said, at what Jesus did, he always said that I am. I'm the light. I'm the vine, you know, and that's what you have to say and remember as a business owner. Now, this topic I really love because I think this is an area that most business owners don't think about. Many of them separate their Christian walk from their business. But this particular topic was God is the boss. We did a business study here at New Covenant for a year from one of the books by Dave Stewart called Doing Business by the Good Book. And one of the things in that book, and that was a year-long business session that we did, and one of the things that was in that book is that God is your number one customer. Your number one customer. And so Laurie Beth Jones took it a little differently. She said, you got to keep in contact with the boss all the time. You gotta know who it is you're serving. So talk to me a little bit about how you keep God as your boss.
Once you know who you serve, then you know why you're serving. You have purpose in serving. You have to take it to that next level. So anything that I'm doing, and I realize that the boss is God, the way I treat people, the way I treat customers, the way I think about business, the way I even think about failure, the way I think about successes, it changes because now it takes it away from a selfish desire and back to I'm serving God and I'm doing this business for his glory and not for my glory. And so when Jesus is saying that God is boss, he understands that he's not in charge.
His Father sent him.
He was sent for a purpose and for a reason. And in business, oftentimes we think it's about me, and some more me. Not understanding that God is giving you an opportunity to have a business to be able to help others.
Yes.
And so you become less of being served and more of being a servant.
Yes, absolutely.
When you know that God is the boss.
Absolutely. I want to share with you briefly the story of why I started my current business. And I did it actually because of sitting right here in this sanctuary in a service, and our pastor, Pastor Bill, asked everyone who was unemployed to stand up. Well, when they did that, it seemed to me that day that almost the entire congregation stood up. And I kid you not, I began to cry. And I said to myself, why are you crying? You got a job. Why are you crying? But the reason I was crying is because that was when God was telling me what my purpose was. And if you ever go on my website, on my business, you will find that my mission statement is create jobs. And the way I want to create that is by empowering small business owners. Because if I can empower enough small business owners, they can then create jobs. Then we'll be able to see wealth in our community. And then the next time our pastor asks how many people are unemployed stand up in this congregation, no one will stand up. But that was the impetus of my business, and so that's how I know that God is my boss in that business, because I'm doing that to help his people, to help our kingdom, and to rebuild community wealth. We talk a lot about generational wealth, but we don't often talk a lot about community wealth. That seems to be something that our community does not engage in. Other communities they do it really well. But we struggle with that a little bit, community wealth. But that is one of my goals with my business, is to help build community wealth. And when you look at who is the boss, one of the things that I think as small business owners we don't do is we don't do customer discovery. What do I mean by customer discovery? I mean, who's going to buy what you're selling? Now, we're very quick to come up with the product or service and say, okay, I was the best IT technician at AT&T, so I'm going to leave AT&T and I'm going to start a business, and I'm just going to start a business. But, okay, who's going to call you? Who is looking for you? Why do they need what you're doing? And that was a mistake I made personally in my first business. I was a training manager for Bell South when I left, and I had all of these people who knew me and knew that I did training, and I left the business, and I just knew my phone was going to ring, and it did not, because I didn't take the time to discover who my customer really was, who was willing to buy what I was selling. There is a whole series of learning that you can do around customer discovery. But the first thing I would like to ask you that are watching is just ask the question, who's going to buy what I'm selling? Keeping in mind God is the boss, and who's going to buy what I'm selling?
You just said a mouthful. Let me see if I can
know I
unpack
did.
some of this
I know
stuff.
I did.
First of all, let me just tell you, because I know you just started your new business. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, one of
business number two.
Number two, one of the things that I can appreciate about the entrepreneurial spirit is a never quitting attitude.
Yes.
Is understanding that failure is not the end. You put a comma behind the failure and you get back up. And so when you have the entrepreneurial spirit, no matter what you're facing, you're willing to do it again.
Yes.
Now, the only reason why true entrepreneurs can get up and do it again is because of the boss.
Yes, absolutely.
And because the boss gives constant downloads.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Now, you can only get a download when you're connected to the source. And so if you're connected to the source, which we've just found out and discovered that God is the source, he is the boss.
He's the boss.
And you stay connected to him, which is divine, then you can receive the downloads. And once you get that download, he will start to impart on you the wisdom and discernment on the customers.
Absolutely.
Now,
absolutely.
When you get out of place and you start thinking about the customers before you get the download from the boss, then you create your own customer source.
Yes, yes.
And you're praying about people that God didn't send your way.
Absolutely.
But if you're patient enough to wait for God to give you that download, then what you can do in essence is you can start praying for customers well before you even need those customers. And so what you're doing is, when I was growing up in Little River, South Carolina, in the country, I know none of y'all have heard of Little River. If you have, you know we got one light. But if you knew of Little River, you know back in the day, we had to get water from a pump. And I moved from Connecticut to Little River. And when I went down there, I did not understand that you just could not go to that pump and start pumping and get water. And so I would pump, and nothing would come out. Then somebody stopped me and said, you have to put water in the pump first in order to get water out. That didn't make sense to me, but when I thought about it later, I understood that you have to be willing to put in to get out. And so when you're willing to listen to God, that means that you have a relationship with him. You're putting in the relationship and the time to get out the downloads that he's given to you. And so that way you know the customers before you get the customers. So now you have a list of people. I pray for customers well before we even have customers. So I listen to God, and God says, start praying for this customer. I start praying for him. And eventually it may take 2, 3, 4 years, but eventually they become customers.
But you got to have that download.
You got to have that download, and you got to line that download up with faith.
Now, that statement really leads to our next topic, and that is believe in yourself. As I was reading in the book, there was a section where Lori was quoting someone, and that person said they were in a room full of entrepreneurs, and they asked this question. And so I wanted to test that theory. So I was riding in the car with my daughter, and I asked her the question. I said, do you believe in yourself 100%? And she said, no. I said, 90? No. Well, we got all the way down to 75% before she agreed that she believed in herself 75%. And that was exactly what happened in the book, that the majority of people in the room that day believed in themselves 75%. So the person that Lori was telling the story about said to them, well, why don't you believe in the other 25%? And they had no answer. But it's that having that other 25% belief is what you're going to need as an entrepreneur. You got to have that. And we know Jesus believed in himself because he always said, he always said that I'm the light, I'm the gate, I'm the vine. He had 100% belief in himself. And if we have his power in us, as we should have as Christians, then we gotta get to that 100%. And I say get there because I realize that people aren't there yet. But if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, now I know you have 100% belief in yourself because I've seen you walk it out. And so talk to me about how you got to your 100%.
Well, I want everybody to understand when Florena is talking about the 100% belief in yourself, you can have 100% belief in yourself, but if you do not trust God, you're lost.
Absolutely.
And so Jesus had 100% belief in himself, but he trusted his Father. And so your trust has to come from your Father, and it comes over time. Is you have to try him. You have to put things in front of him, and he will show you that you can trust him. He can be trusted. And that's how you get to the 100% belief in yourself. And that doesn't mean that things don't go wrong. I failed more than I succeeded. But as I always say, I only need one good success to make it. I can fail 20 times, but that one good success can mean everything. And so having 100% belief in yourself means that you're willing to try it over and over and over and over again. Now, why do you need 100% belief in yourself? Because when that door closes,
which it will, in areas that you just know that was your area. Yes.
You got to be willing to let the door, as George Jefferson used to say, let the doorknob hit you with a good Lord spit you. You got to be willing to let that door hit you in your nose, turn around, go back out, and see if the window is open.
Yes.
You climb up to that window, and it's closed. You got to be willing to climb back down, go back around, and then look up and see if there's an opening in the roof. That's having 100% belief in yourself. You're saying that there's something inside that God has said is for me, and I'm not going to let the door being closed, the window being shut, or the roof not having accessibility to stop me. So at the end of the day, I'm getting in. If I got to tunnel up under the ground, whatever God said is for me, we got to get it.
Almost like the biblical story where the four men lowered their friend down to Jesus because they knew that the success was in the room if they could just get their friend there. And they couldn't get through the crowd. So what did they do? Go up on the roof, tore up the roof, and lowered him down.
Or the woman who had the issue of blood. Mm-hmm. All she kept saying is, if I can just touch the hem. See, when you know that the source is divine and he has the power, all you need to do is get close to him. Now, I know people out there are looking at this and they're saying, is that it? Yes. Is that simple? That is it. Does that mean that everything is going to change tomorrow? Well, to be honest with you, it could, because you can change in your mind.
Yes.
Your thinking
That's the number
changes
one thing.
first. Mm-hmm. Not the physical part of it. It's the thinking, is you having the motivation to say in my mind that I can do it. All I need to do is trust him. And when you start trusting him, then he starts giving you certain things that you need to do in order to better yourself. Now, I can tell you this. When God tells you something, he's not coming down here to do it for you.
Oh.
That means that you have to get up and go out. I've put on suits to go to clients I did not have. I've gotten up in the morning thinking about a bank account that I knew had no money in it. I've written down money to go in the bank account when I didn't have the funds coming from anywhere. But I had a belief that if I exercise the faith that God had downloaded in me, that those things will come to fruition. Now, I didn't know how long it's going to take, and nobody does.
No.
Because he's the boss.
He's the boss.
And when he's the boss, you just trust that when he gives you a check on Friday, you can cash it.
Well, it seems as though that time has gotten away from us, and this is just the first part of our series. But we encourage you, if this has been helpful to you, if you can like us on Facebook, and also all of our social media, Walk with New Cov. You can go to our website, which is newcov.org. Send us a question. We're going to do this series a couple more times, and we'd love to have your questions that we could answer to share more with you about how we're walking out our entrepreneurship and how we recommend you walk out your entrepreneurship with the number one customer, which is God. So, Steve, this has been a pleasure as always to sit and talk business with you. And we can say to our audience, we will be back with more about Jesus, the CEO.
He's the CEO. Do business, do business, do business, do business in excellence.
Thank you for joining us today.